Man, it's been a long time since we've done an album review. Let's do one right now. I'm finally talking about Ad Infinitum. Let's check out their third album, Chapter 3, Downfall. Hello, welcome back to Crushing Sounds. My name is Chris. My apologies for the lack of album reviews of these last few months. I think we haven't done any this year, actually. We did a song review, but not an album review. I just had other kind of video ideas that I wanted to talk about, and I'm very pleased that they went really, really well. My video looking at Rolling Stone's top 100 metal songs did alright. In hindsight, I was way too kind to that article, but you know, what are you going to do? The video about Gajira's merchandise prices also did quite well, and the Angus McSix video goes without saying. Thank you all so much for checking out our stuff, and thanks for sticking around. Really does mean a lot. Yeah, glad to see people are checking out our stuff. So it means the world. But back to our bread and butter, so to speak. I cannot begin to tell you how long I've been meaning to talk about Ad Infinitum, which for the longest time I kept calling Ad Infinitum. Shit, getting pronunciations right, come on, what can I say? So Ad Infinitum was originally a solo project of Melissa Bonney, formerly of Rage of Light, but it became a full band after they signed to Napalm Records. They are essentially a heavy symphonic metal band with soaring clean vocals and harsh vocals, Melissa providing both. I first heard them after the release of their first album in 2020, however I heard that album a few months after it came out, so I didn't think it was worth dedicating a video talking about it. It did make it onto my honourable mentions of my top albums that year though, so that should tell you enough. I really, really liked it. I loved the melding of the orchestra and the metal. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. See my Septic Flesh review for evidence of that. Not that, of course, they were the first band to do this by any means. It just clicked with me right away. Melissa Bonney's amazing vocals, probably a big part of that. That and the orchestral stuff was pushed right to the front on that first album. Just really, really enjoyable album. Nothing more to it than that, really. When the second album came out, only a year later, I put to a vote whether I should review that album or what at the time was the new Black Veil Brides album. And because you guys can be assholes, you asked me to look at the Black Veil Brides album. I still haven't forgiven you for that one. So I skipped out on the second Ad Infinitum album as well. Just my thoughts quickly here. I liked that album too, but not nearly as much as the first one. So now we come to Ad Infinitum's third album, Chapter 3, Downfall. So this is going to be one of those sweet, short to the point reviews, I guess. Any Ad Infinitum album is going to be easy to present and describe, right? It's big, it's bombastic, heavy metal with lots of hooks. That was true of the first couple singles, and it's still the case now having heard the whole album. It's hard for me to single out a specific moment where Melissa shines as a vocalist, because once again, her vocals are stellar across the entire album. They are probably the best bit of this band, let's be real. Harsh or clean, doesn't matter. She's just as awesome now as she always has been. This album continues that showcase of her ability as much as the earlier stuff did. So Downfall continues the energy and attitude that the band has had from the very beginning. Right from the off, Eternal Rain's chorus is massive. It hits hard, it sounds enormous, and it's full of energy. This band have always been good with front-loading their album with a really big opening number, and true to that, again, this song pulls you right into the album. And I love the ending of the track with that creepy vocal effect and the low-tuned guitars. Really cool. However, within only a few tracks into this album, I noticed something that I'm not too sure how I feel about. The symphonic side of things, namely the orchestras, are really downplayed here. Not to say that they're gone entirely, they are definitely in there, but they feel less present than before. I had to really turn my headphones up to hear and feel the impact from the orchestra in this music. So as I say, it's there, but it's much more subtle. The other instruments are pushed much more to the forefront. Instead, what we do also have is what sounds like more of a sort of synthy kind of symphonic. I'm sure those are real instruments, but they don't sound as film score epic as they have done previously. Honestly, I was thinking of the band Amaranth a lot during this album. Now, I'm not an Amaranth hater. I used to be when I was a dumb idiot elitist teenager, but now I've come around to their style. I actually think their newest album is actually pretty fucking good. However, I do miss the way that the first Ad Infinitum album did this. I mean, just listen to this chorus in this new song, Upside Down. Add a few more synths here and there, you've got an Amaranth song. That being said, the tracks are still big and entertaining. Seth was a good time. It started off with a little bit of what I was missing, with really cool orchestral stuff, while also being really, really heavy, which I love. And I assume, based on the name, that some of the instrumental runs were Egyptian inspired. They sounded really, really cool. So that was awesome. Then all the orchestral stuff sort of just recedes into the background again. The rest of the song, fortunately, I do like the rest of the song. It's just wanted those elements I love to stick around a little bit longer. I won't keep harping on about the lack of classical elements in the first half of the album, so let's jump right ahead. The song The Underworld threw me for a massive loop. Mental frenetic guitar line to boot things off, and then a really low powerful riff. Also one of the few bits of harsh vocals. We haven't heard many so far on this album. They were way too few and far between, but we get them here and they're awesome. We even get this genty bit after the chorus. A lot going on here, this was a good one. Then if you've heard the album, you're probably waiting for me to say that Under the Burning Skies is my favourite on the album, and yeah, it probably is. It's epic, it's emotional, and has all the elements brought together. The classical elements are properly showcased here at last, the guitars sound big and heavy. It's essentially a ballad, but it's a standout for me on the album. It resonated with me the most. I love how it builds as well. It starts with just the orchestra and Melissa, and then builds all the elements together. Love that final chorus, just got to me, you know. Things continue positively for the most part. Architects of Paradise and the Serpent's Downfall are pretty solid. Architects is another one that stays epic and symphonic. Love the string sections in particular in that one. Also get another cool genty section and some harsh vocals. And Serpent's Downfall keeps the cool strings that I love. Bit too buried in the mix again, but still pretty cool. New Dawn, not really for me. Another ballad, but this one's really ballad. It's not that I don't like this kind of thing. Or I don't appreciate the positivity in the message and the song and the melody. It just didn't do very much for me, to be honest. Especially since the second half of the album was starting to win me back over. This one sort of fell flat and sounded a bit limp. But, you know, each to their own and all that. Plenty of layers, make it sound big enough, I guess. Probably will go down well live, I would have thought. Fortunately, the album ends really strong with Legends. Was really cool hearing Hriegel of Elvati at the beginning. Wish he was in the song more, but whatever. I'll take a spoken word bit at the beginning because he's got a really good voice. The rest of the song is really, really cool as well. We get some of the best guitar work on this song with some really cool lead lines, and I adore that little string run around the 2-minute mark. So good. That is what I wanted more of on this album. That little kind of idea there spread across the rest of the album. So as I say, short and to the point, this album was all over the place for me on the first listen. A similar trend that I noticed with the first two Ad Infinitum albums is that both of those albums front load the best songs at the beginning of the albums. Not that the second halves are ever bad, but I can always notice a drop in my enjoyment as those albums go on. That was there to somewhat of a degree in the first album, more so in the second album. However, Downfall, I think is actually the opposite way around. I think the best stuff is from track 6 onwards. That is over half the album, to be fair, so I guess that's overall a positive thing. And again, it's not that the first half is lacking. I was just listening to the album and constantly thinking for the first few tracks, just push it that little bit further. All the elements are in there. I just needed that scope brought up a little bit more, bringing the classical stuff more to the forefront, and it would have been much better for me for the off. However, from Underworld onwards, all that shifts, and we get exactly what I was waiting for. Well, not exactly as I was waiting for. It's still too buried in the mix for me, but we got closer to what I wanted from that track onwards, basically. And on repeat listens, knowing what the album was going in, the first track sat with me quite a bit better. Seth, I think, is great, so there that is. So essentially this album just took a bit too long for me to get going on the first listen. My epic metal bias clearly shining through here, because I wanted it to be bigger, I wanted it to be more epic. This is all personal preference, so if you like the slightly more synthy symphonic stuff as well as the classical, or if even you like more djent in your symphonic metal, you'll have a lot more to enjoy here if you like all those elements as well. And either way, at the end of all of that, it's still really committed and ballsy symphonic metal album with great hooks, awesome vocals, and some cool instrumentation, with a little bit of classical trimmings here and there. The first album by this band is still top of the pile for me by far, but Chapter 3 Downfall was still an entertaining listen. Didn't blow me away or anything, but a good time nonetheless.